The monetary system, a debt-fueled Ponzi scheme on a finite planet. The market system involves individuals engaging in various economic activities, such as labor production and distribution, primarily driven by the pursuit of profit. In contrast, the monetary system represents a set of policies established by financial institutions that influences the conditions of the market system. This system encompasses terms like interest rates, loans, debt, money supply, and inflation, which are often discussed by monetary economists. Despite the complexity and jargon associated with the monetary system, its underlying nature is relatively simple. Three fundamental elements govern the global economy: fractional reserve banking, compound interest, and an infinite growth paradigm. Fractional reserve banking allows banks to create money through lending, while compound interest requires borrowers to pay back more than they originally borrowed. This process leads to the creation of additional money, which must be serviced by further money creation. The prevailing economic paradigm can be characterized as a Ponzi scheme, where continuous growth is essential for its survival. However, such perpetual growth is not feasible in the context of a finite planet. James Hillman, a renowned psychologist, observed that in the human body, only cancer grows after a certain age. This analogy highlights the inherent limitations to growth. The relentless pursuit of economic growth places a heavy burden on individuals, who are essentially seen as vehicles for money creation. This cycle requires constant borrowing and money creation to maintain its stability. However, the current global economic crisis underscores the fragility of this system and its inability to sustain infinite growth on a finite planet. The monetary system is fundamentally underpinned by debt, a reality that shapes the entirety of the economy. Money, in its essence, originates from debt, whether in the form of bonds, loans, or credit transactions. This monetary creation tied to debt establishes a unique scenario where if all outstanding debt were instantly repaid, there wouldn't exist a single dollar in circulation. Additionally, interest charged on loans compounds this problem, as the money required to settle the interest doesn't exist in the money supply but is necessary to cover the interest charges, inevitably leading to an ever-increasing money supply and, consequently, inflation.
The entire world economy rests on the consumer. If he ever stops spending money he doesn't have on things he doesn't need, we're done for. If there were no debts in our money system, there wouldn't be any money. Each and every time a bank makes a loan, new bank credit is created, new deposits, brand new money. Banking doesn't involve fraud, banking is fraud. Only commercial banks and trust companies can lend money that they manufacture by lending it. If the American people ever allow private banks to control the issue of their currency, first by inflation, then by deflation, the banks and corporations that will grow up around them will deprive the people of all property until their children wake up homeless on the continent their fathers conquered. The study of money, above all other fields in economics, is one in which complexity is used to disguise truth or to evade truth, not to reveal it. The process by which banks create money is so simple that the mind is repelled. The issue which has swept down the centuries and which will have to be fought sooner or later is the people versus the banks. Permit me to issue and control the money of a nation, and I care not who makes its laws. Power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
This system's dynamics inevitably lead to inflation and bankruptcy. The perpetual increase in the money supply to cover interest charges invariably causes inflation, a trend witnessed globally. Moreover, bankruptcy looms over individuals, businesses, and even countries, arising when interest payments become insurmountable. However, within this scenario, the system is rigged to favor corporations and those in power. Debt effectively creates a workforce entrapped in financial obligations, making them more likely to accept low wages, turning individuals into easily exploitable resources for corporations.
And I said, look, we'd like to ask you to work for us for 50 cents a year, and if you would devote at least 20 hours a week.
This same concept extends to countries where global entities like the World Bank and the IMF offer significant loans at high interest rates, eventually exerting control and exploitation when nations fall into insurmountable debt. The stock market serves as a unique amalgamation of the monetary and market systems, deviating from the tangible production of goods and services. Instead, it operates by buying and selling money itself, even trading debt for profit. Complex financial instruments like credit default swaps and collateralized debt obligations further compound this issue, allowing for the commodification and manipulation of debt for financial gain. The interconnectedness between the stock market, Wall Street, and the monetary system has birthed an unprecedented level of irrationality and instability within the economy, showcasing a distorted version of value driven by the money sequence. The editorial Lessons of the Brain-Damaged Investor sheds light on a disturbing reality within Wall Street and the financial markets. It outlines how individuals with diminished empathy, often due to slight brain damage, perform better as investors. This detachment from empathy allows for decisions and trades to be executed without consideration for their impact on fellow human beings. Consequently, Wall Street fosters a culture that breeds individuals lacking in empathy, transforming them into robotic traders devoid of ethical concerns or moral considerations. To exacerbate this trend, financial institutions now opt for algorithmic trading, employing computerized systems that engage in high-frequency trading. These systems, exemplified by Goldman Sachs' collocated computer, engage in trading strategies that exploit minute price differences, reaping immense profits through tactics that, statistically, seem impossible. The pervasive culture of corruption within Wall Street and financial institutions perpetuates fraudulent practices as the norm rather than an exception. Bribes flow upward within the hierarchy, from brokers to compliance officers, ultimately facilitating an environment where compliance with the law becomes a transactional affair. Compliance officers, tasked with ensuring adherence to regulations, can be influenced or manipulated, making adherence to the law a matter of circumstantial compliance rather than ethical obligation. Fraud, once considered an incidental issue within the system, has now become its very foundation. Financial institutions engage in the trading of fraudulent claims, generating profits and bonuses through the circulation and resecuritization of these fraudulent assets, which have no real value or likelihood of ever being repaid. This systemic acceptance and promotion of fraudulent activities have transformed them into the driving force behind the United States' economic growth, despite the inherent risks and lack of substance in these transactions. The staggering scale of outstanding fraudulent claims, particularly derivatives, within the global financial system presents an alarming predicament. With an estimated value surpassing $700 trillion, this sum far exceeds the entire planet's gross domestic product by more than tenfold. The repercussions of this financial entanglement have already manifested in government bailouts of corporations and banks, an irony given that these bailouts often involve governments borrowing funds from the very institutions they seek to rescue. Now, attempts are underway to bail out entire countries, orchestrated by conglomerates of nations through international banks. However, the enormity of the problem poses a critical question: how does one bail out an entire planet? Nearly every country is ensnared in debt, and the chain reaction of sovereign debt defaults appears to be only at its onset, considering the staggering arithmetic. The trajectory seems dire as economists predict an ominous future where income taxes in the United States may need to skyrocket to a staggering 65% per person just to cover the impending interest payments. Projections paint a bleak picture, hinting that within a few decades, a staggering 60% of the world's countries might face bankruptcy. Astonishingly, the looming global financial crisis is founded upon an intangible concept, debt, an abstract construct invented within the financial realm.
Well, honey, I've extended our line of credit and exhausted all our savings. We should be good for another month.
Oh, that's great, honey. Well, what are we going to do next month?
Well, I'll tell you what we're not gonna do. Shoot all of our children and then kill ourselves.
Oh, I'm going to hold you to that.
I don't think you'll have any control over it.
Yet, the repercussions of this monetary fiction are felt tangibly, impacting billions of lives worldwide. The consequences are stark: soaring unemployment rates, burgeoning tent cities, escalating poverty, the imposition of austerity measures, closure of educational institutions, widespread child hunger, and various forms of deprivation among families. All these distressing realities have emerged due to a systemic financial crisis rooted in a complex web of financial maneuvers, prompting a rhetorical question: in light of this elaborate and catastrophic fiction, does this not reflect a collective misjudgment?
Yo, Earth, what's with the long face? Oh, hey, Mars, I'm just, struggling with some stuff. Same old, You're gonna ask for a favor again, aren't you? Well, you see... Alright, what's this? Earth, you better not be here begging for resources again. Look, I know I've been a little careless lately, but... No buts! You're always making things designed to break, making a mess, and then expecting us to bail you out. Grow up, man. Earth, you've got to start taking care of yourself. You know you've got plenty of resources. You've just got to use them more wisely instead of mindlessly consuming them. Yeah, I know. I just need a little help. Well, you're not going to exhaust all our resources too, so we're cutting you off. Come on, guys. Wait, guys, come on, I can change. I promise. I'll give up the market as soon as I've made enough profit to retire on.